If you're ever wondering how powerful your mind can be, listen to this. About 8 years ago, I was hitting the heavy bag. A client of mine, personal training client, wanted to record me while I was hitting the bag. So I was showing off and I was throwing big left hooks, and all of a sudden, pop, I blew my distal bicep tendon and my bicep rolled up to my shoulder. So I go in to get surgery, and I was so worried that I was going to have to, that I was going to re-injure my arm, that I kind of walked around, kind of shrugged up like this, and I just would protect my arm. And of course, this arm is smaller than this arm because it atrophied. So it happens from inactivity. But here's the rub. I started looking in the mirror and I began to notice, oh my God, my right arm is measurably longer than my left arm. Measurably longer. So when I would look at my left arm, I would see like a baby arm. And I was like, what? So I start looking at old pictures of myself, and sure enough, I see it. I see it in every old picture. I see my left arm is measurably shorter, measurably smaller than my right arm. I mean, we knew it was smaller, muscle-wise, but I didn't know it was longer, less longer, shorter, right? Well, I began to think so this happened to me when I was 44, maybe? How did I make it 44 years and not realize that I had one arm shorter than the other? And I went through a grieving process, of having a normal size arm and onto acceptance. And when I got to acceptance, I told somebody at work, I said, hey, I have one arm shorter than the other. It's crazy. And her name was Sarah. She's literally one of the smartest trainers I know. And she said, no, you don't. I said, I do, look. So I stood in front of the mirror and she looked at it and I could clearly see it. And then she said, Maddie, no, you don't. I'm like, well, yes, I do. Look, it's right here. It's right here, And so she took out tape measure and she measured my humerus from here to here, on both arms. They're the same length. And just like magic, right then, my left arm grew to the same size, right in front of my very eyes, right? My own mind. Now here's the point. I had a traumatic experience. And through that traumatic experience, I didn't want to re-injure my arm, blew my arm up. So I walked around protecting it, hunching up like this. This is exaggerated, but it was just enough. And my arm had a little bit of a bend in it, because I was kind of keeping it close to my body. And I began to see myself, see that reflection of that happening. And it began to tell me that arm was shorter, it was smaller, it was weaker, it was all those things. And then I began to seek that confirmation when I was looking at pictures, because my faculty, my brain, my subconscious mind did not want to protect that agency. It wasn't until somebody who had authority, and authority just means somebody whom I respect a lot for their intellect, for their brains, for knowing what they're doing, told me, showed me, measured, and right then, boom. That's how powerful the mind is. So, if you have a really peculiar belief about yourself, or a really strong belief about yourself that you're not really on board with, you don't really like that, then question it. Run it by somebody whom you respect. Or go see a hypnotist, because that right there is proof that hypnosis works. I had literally convinced myself that my left arm was shorter than my right arm. Crazy the mind is it not?